Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, December 18th, the last official Your Mac Life show for the year 2013. I'm Shawn King, joined in studio tonight by absolutely nobody. The poor Sig has to work tonight, so she can't join us. She'll be home after the show's over, so it's just me on tonight's show. I said last official show because what's going to happen is next Tuesday, for those longtime listeners, you know that we don't do a show on the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's. But this year, Christmas and New Year's are actually on Wednesdays. So it's going to be 3 weeks, three Wednesdays before we have another show. So that's January, I think January 8th is the next show after this one. But next week, next Tuesday, for most of the afternoon, I'm going to play around. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see me tweet that I'm going to test out the Wirecast software from Telestream. They've had some issues with it. I've had some issues with it being stable, so I'm going to try to push it and see if I can't both help them out and help me out and try to figure this thing out. Google Hangouts is cool and it's useful as a backup, but it's not as powerful as I want. I can't do the kind of interesting visuals that I want to do. And quite frankly, looking at this face for 2 hours every Wednesday is interesting for me, and it certainly can't be interesting for you guys. So I'm trying to find a better way to make this more visually exciting. So if you're around on Tuesday, if you're tired of family, or you haven't gotten to see your family yet, or whatever, check me out on Twitter. I'm at Shawn King on Twitter. Don't follow me if you don't already. Just maybe follow me on Tuesday and then unfollow me. I'm kind of a verbose kind of guy on Twitter. I have no problem with people not following me on Twitter. It's not that important to me that I have 18,000 followers. I really don't care. So if you... What's that? The backwards video in the background is freaking me out. Is it backwards for you guys? Because it's forward. Really? I'm sorry. Hang on. Now is it forwards? That's really weird. The video for me was, see, now it's backwards for me, but it's forward for you guys. All right, fine. I didn't realize it was going backwards. Distracted. So yes, this will be the last official show until January 8th, 2014. So hopefully your Christmas is ready. You're going to have a good one next week. I wish you all a very happy holiday and very, very Merry Christmas. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking to our good friend Jim Downpour from The Loop at loopinsight.com. And we'll also be talking to Ken Siegel. We'll talk to Jim about the new Mac Pro Apple announced today. That's going to be on sale tomorrow. And if you've been a very, very good boy or girl, and when I say very good, I mean rescuing puppies from burning buildings good. Because $3,000 for the base model, not cheap. But again, it's not a consumer machine, so people wanting with the price, shut up. I mean, you're not a pro. It will be on sale tomorrow, so talk to Jim about that. I know Jim's getting one for himself. We're also going to talk to Jim and Ken Siegel. Ken Siegel is the guy who came up with the name the iMac for Apple many years ago. He is formerly of Chiat Day. He's on his own now at kensiegel.com. Talk to him about the advertising. Whenever I have advertising questions or comments, Ken's always my go-to guy. So I did a pre-recorded interview with Ken. Couldn't do it live because he's flying back home from Miami this evening, right now, as a matter of fact. So that's why we couldn't do it live. You know I like doing live shows more than tape, but I had to do this one on tape. Your emails are always appreciated on air at yourmaclifeshow.com. If you have a Christmas wish you'd like to send it to someone on the show, please, on air, yourmaclifeshow.com. As always, please join us in our IRC chat room. Thanks to the nice folks at irc.chat-solutions.org. We're in the Pound Your Mac Life channel. But if you're not an IRCer and don't have IRC software, you can go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there at the top of the page, along with the video that's running, the YouTube video that's running. Below that, you can join the IRC chat room with nothing but your name. It's easy to do, and the folks in the IRC will welcome you with open arms. If they don't, Sly will kick their ass. Because that's what she does. That's what she's good at. That's why she gets the big bucks. So first up, let's talk about just between us kids here. What were your thoughts about the misunderstood ad? Have you seen it? Have you seen the new ad from Apple that they showed, I believe, was it yesterday or the day before? Interesting ad. Interesting, and I mentioned this with Ken Siegel. in my interview with him, it's interesting to see how Apple seems to be one of the few, if only, companies that gets their ads utterly zaprudered like this. It's really amazing, the commentary about this, that you don't see from any other company, as far as I know. I don't hang out in the Toyota forums or the Coca-Cola forums. Maybe people do the same thing with their ads, but it's really remarkable to see how much virtual ink was used up in discussing this ad, both pro and con. The cons, I think, were really interesting because it seems that a lot of the cons come from the personal, I don't know if bias is the right word, but the personal feelings the writer has already about Apple. The fact that, I think it was The Verge, said that this kid had an iPhone addiction. How do you know that? It's a few hours in this kid's life. Maybe he's a high school basketball player. Maybe he's autistic. Maybe he's deaf and mute. We have no idea, but people assume the most negative thing they can in order to prove their point about Apple and about the ad. And if you're going to assume negative, then you're not being objective. Look at the ad for what it is. The only real criticism that I could have about the ad is the fact that the kid is shooting in portrait mode and the video's in landscape mode. But only the geekiest of the geek even notice that. It doesn't matter. It's not the point of the ad. Sly says, many Facebook friends, not Mac crazy as I, bawled at the ad. I got to admit, I had something in my eye when the mom and the grandma were tearing up. I got a little wet myself. I thought it was a very well done ad, and as Hiker BC points out, it was shot in Edmonton. Where else are you going to get that much snow this time of year? It's interesting that Apple did this ad, that it's a branding ad, that it's an ad maybe about the company. Maybe Apple is represented by the kid. Maybe the title of the ad represents Apple. But Apple is misunderstood. I don't know. And if you contrast and compare that ad with the ad that Jim Dalrymple linked up on loopinsight.com, the Nokia ad, which is just, oh my sweet baby Jesus. Have you guys seen this one? This is out of the world insane. Completely batshit crazy. It's like the Nokia ad was done by David Lynch. Dave D, looking for the URL. Go to loopinsight.com, Dave, and either scroll down or look for the word Nokia. Do a search for the word Nokia on the page, and you'll find it. It is just the most whacked out ad you could possibly imagine. And the folks at TechPinion pointed out the difference is when this ad and Microsoft Scroogled ads, in particular the one that they did with the guys at the pawn shop in Las Vegas, Pawn Stars, I think is the name of the show that they're on, which was a completely fake and false ad with lines like the only real computer is one that runs Windows and Office. Come on, Microsoft. It's the 21st century. You can't say that anymore. Not that you ever could, but you really can't say it now. So only Apple can do these. And one of the interesting comments I saw someone write was that it's because of the groundwork, the foundation Apple's built up over the years that they can run these kinds of ads. And that's an interesting point. I wonder if, because you don't see the technology all that much, is the ad interchangeable with a Microsoft Windows phone ad or Motorola phone ad running Android? Do you think the ad would be as compelling? I'll ask Jim Dalrymple this too. I just thought about it myself. Would this ad be as compelling? Would it make you tear up in the same way if it wasn't an Apple ad? Could Motorola, could Microsoft, could Google, could Samsung get away with this kind of ad? I don't know. I don't know. But it is fascinating to watch people remark on this. The other interesting thing I want to talk about, I'll talk about Jim with this, is Walt Mossberg, Uncle Walt, as I affectionately have always called him. Someone wrote today that I started reading Mossberg before I was ever involved in tech or tech media. Everyone did, dude. Walt Mossberg's been around longer than writing about tech, longer than I think anybody who's still continuously writing about tech. 22 years now. And Walt's not retiring either. Walt's moving on. He's taking his game and taking it to South Park. No, South Beach. Damn it, I ruined the line. He and Kara Swisher and the gang over at All Things D have sold. I was going to say sold their soul. I don't think it's true. I think they're doing what we would all do if we could. Someone offers us a buttload of money to go and do the same thing we're doing now somewhere else. Yeah, we'd all take the money. I've got no problem with Walt and Kara and all those guys. They built a brand, and they're taking that brand to the highest bidder. That's fine. Same with David Pogue. David Pogue, as much as I dislike the idea of him writing for Yahoo, and as much as I believe he is a Yahoo, and as much as I believe you're taking a huge step down, he's going to have more money, certainly, more freedom over at Yahoo than what the Times gave him. Go for it. Now that's interesting. ArcSign says, I cry at some story, but this commercial one didn't do anything for me. Interesting, Arc. You're the first person besides these tech writers I'm talking about who says that. So yeah, Walt has his article, the 12 things that he's talked about that he over the last 22 years that impressed him the most. 5 of those things are from Apple. And Walt, in his typical upfront way, said, yeah, some people are going to slam me for that, but it's because Apple's done the most over the last 22 years to do cool things, even cool things that fail. One of the products that Walt raves about in the article is the Newton. And the Newton was a failure. There's no doubt about it. There's no other way to describe it. Only the most diehard, hardened Newton lover would say otherwise. But it was a fascinating product. It was a product that I wish I had the money for at the time because it was the coolest thing out there. It was so cool, even though you knew it didn't do the things that Apple said it was going to do. It did a lot of things that nothing else could do, especially the handwriting recognition, which was apparently awful. As Brian Monroe said in the IRC chat room, the Newton set the groundwork for iOS and the iPhone. To a certain degree, yes, it did. It certainly gave the foundation for how to take that and go forward. The idea of the personal digital assistant. They may have taken more from Palm and those kind of devices, but certainly the Newton showed them what they could do as a company. ARM chips and apps, as Brian says. You know, he's right. Just waiting for Jim Downpour from The Loop at loopinsight.com to join us. As always, email onair at yourmaclifeshow.com. Let us know what you guys... We talked about this before. Any Christmas wishes that you'd like? Any things that you've got for someone that are extra special? Typical guy I am. I still haven't completed my Christmas shopping. I have to shop now for a 12-year-old girl. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What do you get a 12-year-old girl? Frickin' clue. Especially a 12-year-old girl that's not your own. It's someone else's. It kind of weirds me out. Help. Anyone out there got a 12-year-old girl can help me out? Email me, please. Especially one who's a nerd. She's really kind of geeky. She loves Doctor Who. She loves computers, although Android and Windows. So she's not all that smart. I'm kidding. She's very smart. But yeah, it's it's really weird to get thrown in the situation of all of a sudden having to shop for a gender and an age group I've never had to shop for before. That's right. Congratulations, Susan Gare, our good friend Susan Gare, the mom of the official YML kid, is now has her master's degree. Yay, Susan! Congratulations to Susan, and congratulations also go to Greg, her husband, because if you're working on your master's, you're working long hours, you're working hard, and if you've got a kid who's smart and needs attention, someone else is going to pick up some of that slack. So Greg gets some props too. But Susan, it's all on you, baby. You did a great job. Congratulations on that. No roll call on the iPad multitasking. I'm not sure what his shadow is talking about there. Come on, Dalrymple, where the hell are you? Someone send Dalrymple a iMessage or a tweet telling him to get in the Google Hangout room. Susan says she's now doing final edits for publication through the school. Sly says, I got 6, 9, 13, 23, and 25-year-olds. Yeah, but 6 and 9, that's easy. Come on. Shopping for a 6 and 9-year-old, no problem at all. Go to Toys R Us, you'll trip over presents for 6 and 9-year-olds. For 23 and 25-year-olds, those are both the girls, that's not that hard either. You go to the body shop. You buy earrings. You buy them a nice bracelet. You're good there. The 13-year-old, yeah, the 13-year-old, you're gonna have the same problems I have. So what it is, Sly? Tell me what you're buying. That's Hannah, the 13-year-old, and I'll buy the same thing for the little Sig. That'll save me the time. Help me! Help me! Went to the Vancouver Christmas Market last night. Had a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever been to the Vancouver Christmas Market. It's downtown on the plaza, that Queen Elizabeth Theater Plaza. It's a little small, a little compact, and I didn't realize it was so German themed. There's all kinds of shops there selling German food, German beer, German craft works. So the Christmas market is mostly a craft work kind of thing. Some beautiful handmade Christmas ornaments and jewelry and presents and things like that. It was a lot of fun. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go was because I knew this. Alessandra had never been on a carousel. Apparently they don't have them in Italy. I don't know. So they have a carousel in the middle of the Christmas market. And so I got her and the little Sig on the carousel. And I have this, the little Sig is just too cool for a carousel. So she's sitting on the thing like, yeah, whatever. Whereas Alessandra's got this great big huge smile on her face, and she's bopping up and down on the little horses on the carousel. It was very funny. She was so cute. For those of you who are wondering, she's working tonight, which is why she's not joining us here. Monty says, just give Sly your Amazon account for fix it right up. I still got the American Amazon account and password, so and they won't ship here to Canada, so that's not going to do any good at all. Congrats, Susan. Sly says, my oldest niece, Michelle, just got confirmation of her master's as well. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Sly says, I'm so effing old. Yeah, both of us, baby. That's just congratulations to Michelle for getting confirmation for her master's, too. That's great for her, but that's just depressing. Just depressing. Jim Dalrymple requests why is Jim Dalrymple requesting a permission? How come all you guys can get in, but Dalrymple can't? Good Lord! Jim's been able to get into the Google Hangout room for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now all of a sudden he can't. Someone tweet or tell Jim that I just sent him his invitation for the Google Hangout room. Is that him? No, that's Doug. Sorry, I can't see which of you guys is Jim and which one of you guys is not Jim. So Arcsign says, I got my mom a Sony shelf-top stereo with CD player, radio, and Bluetooth to play music from her iPad mini. Here's a question, Arcsign. Does your mom know how to do that? In other words, is that an easy setup for your mom, or will you have to configure everything ahead of time for her, and then just show her the one button to push? I'm always curious about these kind of things, about that process of that kind of connectivity, whether average people, I'm not saying your mom's old or anything else like that, but average people can figure this stuff out. We as geeks and nerds figure it out through osmosis or through trial and error or just through experience. But I was curious as to know whether or not the average person figures this stuff out on their own. Sly says, I see my evil planet for Disc Vancouver's working fabulously. The only time you ever see Sly get real pissy on Twitter is when her and Jim Dalrymple get into it about hockey. It's the only time. Every other time on Twitter, Sly is posting pictures of her concerts and saying how she's doing this and how she's on the bus going to work. But her and Dalrymple get into it about hockey, and oh my God, it gets ugly. It just gets downright bitchy between the two of them. And they like each other. I'm assuming. I know Jim likes Sly. I'm pretty sure Sly likes Jim. But dear God, yeah, don't get those two talking about hockey, because it just gets ugly. ArcSign says, I'll set it up and see how tough it is to activate it. Yeah, because I remember, for those folks who remember earlier when I was doing the review of the Libertone Zip speaker setup, it wasn't hard, but unless you knew what to do and how to do it, you weren't going to figure it out on your own. It's not easy for the average person to know that when you are, let's say, for example, iTunes is open, that if you click up here and scroll down, you'll see the Libertone Zip pop up. It's not really clear how to do AirPlay, for example. And it's not really clear how to, even from their own instructions, unless you were a techie and knew what they were talking about, it wouldn't have been 100% clear. You might have been able to figure it out eventually, but certainly wasn't the easy as play music here, push button, turn on speaker, music comes out of speaker, which is the way it should be. Hiker says, I could be wrong, but that's the first ad Apple's filmed entirely in Canada and Edmonton of all places. Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that it is. I don't know of any other ad where people have found out that it was filmed somewhere else, because Apple's never needed snow in the commercials before. And so when they need snow, they come to Canada. That's why, because they needed snow and freezing cold. Apparently someone said that this would have been shot in the last month or so, and it's been like minus 30 for the entire time up there in Edmonton for that. I get an email from Jim. Says, what is this? Pissing me? What? Reply to this email review event. Google, just let Jim Dalrymple in the chat room, for Christ's sake. Let me open up iMessage for Jim. Jim says it needs a goddamn invitation. How the rest of you get in the IRC chat room, in the Google Hangout room? Does anyone else have any problem getting in there? Because Dalrymple can't. Hang on. Yeah, click on the link on the website. Brian says, you just sent him the URL I used to connect. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if there we go. Jim Dalrymple. It's so nice to see that this time it's Dalrymple's problem that he can't connect. All right, let me Jim show in broadcast. Click on Jim. All right, now the question is, can Jim hear me and can I hear Jim?
I'm pissed off now.
Why are you pissed off?
Well, like, what, half an hour or more I've been trying to get into this stupid Google thing, and then I finally try and get in, and it says, do you trust Google? Well, no.
Yeah, really?
See, now I'm upset.
Good.
I'm upset.
those are my favorite shows when you're all grumpy and pissed off.
Well, I'm grumpy and pissed off.
I listened to you this morning on Amplified on your other podcast with nice with Dan Benjamin over there. I had no idea. Now I knew that you were a musician,
Yeah.
and you played guitar.
Yeah.
But I didn't know you knew what you were talking about. You were talking about some sort of iambic pentameter thing going on there with Benjamin. That was pretty cool.
I just made that up.
You sure as hell fooled me. I had no clue what you were talking about major chords and minor fifths, and I was just like, damn, boy knows what he's talking about.
It was it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Do you because you were talking some very technical music stuff. Is that something you've learned on your own? Have you gone to school for that? I mean, the stuff that you were talking about. Oh, I love that. That's just what's that? 8 guitars and a keyboard. Oh, well, Jesus! We're up to 15 guitars. 16, 17, 18.
Well, there's oh yeah. There's 23. 23.
23. You're simply a guitar whore.
Yes. That's the best way to put it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And Monique bought me most of them. I think so that I'll play with the guitars and stop bugging her.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. Thank God you didn't. This is our Christmas show, so we can't go there on Christmas. But yeah, like I said, did you go to school for music, or are you self-taught with that stuff?
Yeah, all self-taught. That's why.
Oh wow.
When people, I mean, a friend of mine in San Jose, Bill Lanero, very, very talented guitar player. I mean, he's just so incredible. But he knows all the theory too.
Yeah.
He can actually talk about, really smart stuff that I can't talk about. So, I know what I've picked up over the years, and some of the stuff is helpful to people, and I don't mind passing that along, because God knows I've spent hours sitting around trying to figure stuff out. So when I do, and somebody else has the same problem, usually, if I don't like them, I just say no, I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, like I said, I had no idea that you were that knowledgeable. I mean, I knew you played, and I knew you were a good player, but I didn't know you knew the behind the scenes, the theory kind of stuff. And so listening to you talk about it was very interesting.
Great.
You guys were also talking about the new Mac Pro that you will be getting. Is it available in Canada as of tomorrow, or is it just in the States for the time being? I mean, will you get one tomorrow?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I haven't been able to find out because Apple being Apple, they won't tell you about availability until it goes on sale. We won't find out officially until tomorrow at whatever time whether it's actually available in Canada.
Yeah, that's right. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. But you are getting.
Yeah.
Now, you and Dan had an interesting conversation about which one you were getting. Basically, best, better, bestest. Which do you know which model you're going to get? The base model, the middle one, or the higher end one?
I certainly won't get the high end one, and there's just no need.
Yeah.
Like I said to Dan today, I mean, you can basically run Canada on one of those machines.
That's right.
I mean, it is kind of insulting to say, okay, what can I do with this machine? Well, you could launch a rocket with it. I mean, it's got so much power that I don't think that there's anybody that's going to be able to really say, oh, well, my Mac Pro stopped working because I did too much with it.
That's right. And you know what? The first time I can't wait for this to happen, because the first time we'll see, Jim will announce on Twitter that he has his new Mac Pro. He'll post a picture of it, and I guarantee you, somewhere between 4 and 8 hours later, you'll get a spinning cursor of death, and you'll lose your fucking mind. It's like, are you kidding me? Spinning cursor death?
Yeah.
The finder will lock up on you, and you'll just lose your shit.
Yeah. I don't think that's happened with Mavericks to me.
Really, for me, it happens not on a regular basis, but yeah, it has happened. But it never freezes up completely. But yeah, it has happened, and I still go, oh come on, this is 2013.
Remember the old days, iOS 8?
Oh jeez, and 7 and everything else like that. Yeah.
And you launch Netscape, and it would just tear the machine apart. You swear to God that it just blew up.
I still remember the day under OS 10 when my Finder crashed, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
I get the message. The Finder's crashed. I'm like, I'm okay with that. I just kept working. I kept, writing and email and web browsing. It was fine. Finder crashed. Don't care. Until I needed it, and I forced quit it. It was pretty cool.
It's amazing how far we've come from those.
No kidding.
Where when you were just you would hold the mouse and just click like please please save, because it's been 15 minutes and you wrote all this stuff. Please, and it would crash. Oh, yeah. Those were tough times.
It doesn't take much for you to learn how to hit Command S constantly. I still do it. I'm still constantly hitting Command S, just out of muscle memory. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now apps autosave, and I have a lot of my apps just auto-saving to iCloud.
Yeah, not me. No way.
Why?
I don't trust the iCloud. I don't trust my internet connection. I don't trust my software. I want things to be saved on my hard drive when I hit Command S.
Oh. Yeah. No, see, I'm going the other.
I know you are. It's weird because you're as suspicious and untrusting of technology as I am, and yet you're doing everything on the cloud. I'm so in the cloud. I'm so cloudy. Like, Jesus, dude. I can't wait for your shit to freeze up on you so I can go, ha ha!
Or your hard drive crash.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, haven't we had that before? Hard drives crash, or
everyone knows.
I've had even raids. One hard drive freezes up, and all of a sudden you're done.
Yep.
So it drives me crazy to think. And if Apple does that, it'll be such. If iCloud freezes up and crashes and loses everybody's data, they'll go in the toilet anyway. So I might as well go right along with them.
Hiker BC says in the IRC chat room, he says that our Apple rep said it is available to order tomorrow. Doesn't say anything about delivery, but he does say it's ready to order tomorrow. And Brian Monroe points out that iCloud is saved to your hard disk drive, just synced to iCloud. I just generally don't like cloud services. I just don't like any sort of cloud services at all. I want stuff where I can see it and not have to worry about internet access.
What did Brian say?
Brian says, Shawn King, iCloud is saved to your hard disk drive, just synced to iCloud. So there's a copy on your hard disk and a copy in the cloud.
Bull. No, there's not.
I'm just reporting what Brian says, okay? That's all I'm doing. I don't know the difference. I don't care.
Okay, well, you just hold on a sec.
All right. Yeah, sure, I'll wait.
No, I'm doing a search here. I saved a document today from an interview I did tonight, and I saved it under the CEO's name on iCloud. Just searched my hard drive and it's not there.
Yes, but it's hidden. It's hidden. It's hidden on your hard drive.
No, I know it's not.
I know. I'm making it up. I have no frickin' clue.
So I like Brian too. Brian's a smart guy.
Usually, yeah.
But I think he got it wrong.
You and Brian fight it out. I don't care. I'm moving on.
Okay.
30 years ago. Let's say 30 years ago. 30 years ago, if I told you that Keith Richards would live to be 70, would you have believed me?
I didn't think Keith Richards lived to be 30.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, really?
I mean, that's just a man too stubborn to die.
Yeah.
Because when Keith actually dies, the Stones are going to smoke his ashes and get high off them.
I said to Monica, as long as people like Keith Richards are alive, I'm good.
That's right. Exactly.
There is no God that's ever going to take me before Keith Richards.
That's amazing.
Whatever.
Congratulations to Keith for being 70. That's pretty incredible. Speaking of
70 today?
Yeah, his birthday, 70th birthday is today.
Wow.
According to Hiker BC. Speaking of old men, Walt Mossberg.
Yeah.
You like the way I segued that? I said this earlier in the show. Someone wrote on GigaOM, I started reading Mossberg before I was ever involved in tech or tech media. Dude, everybody did.
Jesus read Mossberg before he was involved in tech.
Exactly. I mean, I've been racking my brain trying to think of, was there anybody writing about tech before Mossberg? Certainly not on a national platform.
No,
not even Dvorak.
Yeah, I can't. Well, it was so different back then because you had, Mac Week magazine and Mac User, and if you count those people in, I think Mossberg was still before them, but
yeah.
There were a lot of people, LePage and Rick Ford and Matthew Rothenberg.
Rothenberg, yeah.
All those guys.
But those guys didn't have the national reach that Walt Mossberg did. Yeah, there's always been. But you don't know.
International reach.
I possibly, yeah. But I mean, for the average person, Mossberg was probably the first guy they ever read tech about, and he's done a great job over the years. I don't think I can find a single legitimate criticism of Walt Mossberg, except for the fact that his videos are fucking boring. He's got to stop doing those videos. They're awful. His writing. Oh God, don't watch them.
Except the puppet videos; those are hilarious.
Well, those things are funny. Those are okay. But yeah, on video, poor Walt should not do those because he's not very good at it. Just because you've got a face doesn't mean you should be on video.
I didn't get a chance to read his last column today, but 12 years with the best products or something.
Yeah, it was 22 years for the top 12 products, and 5 of them were Apple products, which is reasonable, understandable. Yeah. Have you ever you've met him? You've talked to him, haven't you?
Yeah.
Nice guy. I've always called him Uncle Walt because that's what he reminds me of. He reminds me of an older uncle who has been around the world. He was in the Navy, and he's traveled to Singapore, and he always that's the kind of image I've had. I don't know if any of that's true, but that's always the image I had of Walt, that he was so much wiser than he ever let on with his writing. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Walt Mossberg could dunk a basketball. Just because.
Okay, I put a bet on that. I think that's it.
But it's just when you talk to him, he's not different than his persona on the Wall Street Journal, but you get the impression there's just more to him than the Wall Street Journal. So I'm really interested to see where him and Kara are going to go in January, not just from a tech point of view, but from that freeing him up from the constraints of the Wall Street Journal, and not just the personal, professional, ethical constraints, but maybe I want to see Walt Mossberg water skiing. I think he could do it.
But I mean, no matter where Walt goes, he's going to be Walt. He's going to write like that. Yeah. I mean, after that long of having your name and the way that you do things, it's just that's why I'm not hireable anymore, because no matter where I go, I'm going to write the same way.
You're pigeonholed. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be interesting to see what they're doing, and it's interesting also with this last column of his, seeing people talk about the fact that he's selling out, or are you out of vodka? Classy. But wouldn't we all sell out? He's going to wherever he's going, making more money than he is now.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with that?
No.
I don't know why anyone would have a problem with it, because we would all do the same goddamn thing.
Well, I mean, I think that, whether it's a journalist or a developer or whatever it is, if you can go somewhere and make a ton of money doing something that you love to do, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
If you're not kicking babies or tripping old people or, stuff, go and do it and make your money.
It's especially if you're someone with the personal and professional respect and reputation of Walt Mossberg. Walt is not suddenly going to be pimping for Microsoft. He's going to bring the same personal ethics with him wherever he goes. And so I don't think you can have any sort of concern or criticism of Walt simply for moving from basically one publication to the other. There's none there.
You know?
Bro, what was that?
That's a business move.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got nothing to do with Walt as, oh, geez, Brian Moore. Look, he comes up in my Twitter feed. I told you, smart.
How to access iCloud document from the Mac OS X Finder over at osxdaily.com.
All right, fine, Brian.
If that's your real name.
I'm going to read this. Oh, look, mobile. But it's not a mobile document. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess it is. Okay, I'm going to look.
All right. Can you put that off till after you finish my show?
Yeah, you go ahead.
The misunderstood ad that
yes.
played yesterday on national, international television. What was your first impression of the ad?
Loved it.
Any particular reason why?
Reason why?
Did you tear up at any point?
Well,
at what point did you recognize it as an Apple ad?
Oh, well, I recognized it right off as an Apple ad, but hold on, mobile documents. What?
Oh, dude, come on, focus.
Hold on. This thing's moving. Okay, there are some here, but I don't think that there's any from what I. It keeps jumping around. Okay, there's. Hold on, numbers. Yeah, okay, there's some numbers. Okay, there's some, but I did it in byword. Okay, Brian, if that's your name. Where are my? He's right. They are here, but I don't see my byword document here. Oh wait. Oh, son of a bitch. Oh my God, he's right. There it is. Wow. All right.
Now you have to tweet.
All right, Brian.
You have to tweet at Brian Monroe. You were right, Brian, if that's your real name. So getting back on topic, I recognized that it was an Apple ad fairly soon, probably by the time, the first few seconds of it. But my thought was, where's Apple going with this? What's the point of this? And when it got to the end, and like I said, I'll admit that when you saw Mom and Grandma crying, I got a little misty.
When I saw him walking towards the TV, I said, "Oh no, he's not going to turn on that." Oh no, he's not. And I noticed that he was, sitting and looking at his phone the whole time, and I thought, what a terrible commercial showing this kid so involved in his phone that he's not even looking at his family.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a great commercial, and I think Apple, unlike any other company, is able to really capture that essence of feeling. Other companies do product commercials. Apple focuses on feeling and real world type things that we can all relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't think that anybody else can really do that. Like Microsoft with their clickety-click thing on the Surface.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but I've never gone to an office where a bunch of Asians are dancing around the boardroom table.
I live in Vancouver, so I have.
Well, Vancouver, maybe. But you know what I mean? I mean, you look at that, and it's like that Nokia ad today, What kind of freaky ad is that? I'm going to have to hear you.
Let's stay with the Apple ad for now because we're going to get to that Nokia ad because that Nokia ad was effed up.
Okay, so the Apple ad, I think it's even. Remember the ads with Peter Coyote narrating them? It was just such a great way of showing how the iPad and iPhones are being used, and they do that really well. Really well.
The criticism of the ad, I think, is very interesting, if only because, as I was saying earlier to the audience, we don't see these kinds of critiques, these zaprudering of Toyota ads or Coca-Cola ads. Only Apple ads get this sort of frame-by-frame deconstruction.
Because the others aren't interesting.
Yeah, that's possibly true.
What's interesting about a Toyota ad or a Coke ad? I mean, there have been some Coke ads that have been interesting over the years. The polar bears, and we're all going to sing a song and stand around a big circle around the world, and whatever that was. But really, what's interesting now? Do they even have Coke ads anymore?
I saw one on television this afternoon, and it made me want to bring. I'm glad you brought it up. The polar bear. I was thinking about we don't see people critiquing the Coca-Cola ads because they have polar bears. Why they don't have any polar bears of color? Where's the transgendered polar bear? Where's the?
I'm surprised with their political correctness now.
Exactly.
Look, you said that. You said that, and every single person logged off.
But it's really interesting, and the other aspect of it too that I find really interesting is the fact that people seem to take their own biases and put them on top of this and extrapolate in the direction they want to go, where they were going to go anyway. So, for example, if you don't like Apple, you do what Gizmodo does and The Verge does and says, "Oh, this kid's an iPhone addict." Well, all we see is a couple hours of this kid's life. We don't know if he's an iPhone addict. Maybe he's captain of the basketball team. Maybe this kid has a life outside. It just so happens this one day he wanted to create this video, so that's what he was doing on this one day.
Yeah, let's see you, Gizmodo, create a video like that.
That's right, exactly.
I thought it was a really good ad because being a father of a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old, I noticed that he was, on his phone the whole time. I wanted to smack him partway through the commercial, like, get off your phone. Get off your phone. And, then all of a sudden he walks up to the TV and, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a well-done ad. It was the only thing there's a lot of criticism of it that I just disagree with completely. But there's one that you normally do agree with, Ben Evans. I'll mention this later in the interview I do with Ken Siegel. Ben Evans says, this is not a branding spot. It's a pure feature-led spot. And Ben Evans is usually a very, very smart guy, but he completely blew this one. I'll get your opinion on this. Ben says, Apple's selling points without dwelling on them. Low light works. Slow motion works. Sending it to the TV works. The average person doesn't notice any of that.
No.
Not a single bit of it. I understand what he's saying. The average person saw none of those kinds of issues with the ad.
What people saw is that they cried.
Yeah, exactly. It made you feel.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And one of my rants over at TUAW was they were doing the same sort of thing. They were saying, oh, this kid's not involved in the life of his family. Did you watch the ad? Did you see the kid on the toboggan? Did you see the kid helping to put Christmas ornaments on the tree? Did you see the kid and holding a hand, walking with his sister? He was involved in it. Shut up.
Yeah.
His shadow says, Apple's commercials are windows into bloggers' souls. If you are a cynical, shallow poser, you will see only self-aggrandizement and leap to conclusions regarding the ad that quite simply aren't there. Boom. I think Shadow gets to the 100. That's exactly what it is.
I always let my conscience watch the commercials, Monique.
Yep.
And when those ads with the Genius came out,
yep,
I showed her. She said, I don't get it. I showed her that commercial yesterday.
No.
Tear in her eye.
Did you show her the Nokia commercial?
Yes. Yes, she's been under the couch ever since.
I want to talk to someone at Nokia and just honestly ask them, what the fuck were you thinking when you greenlit this advertisement?
Clearly there was a mandate to lower the price of the stock.
I don't know there's nothing that makes sense with that ad. No. Nothing. I don't know if it's a branding ad, in which case you only show the Nokia logo once. I don't know if it's a product ad, in which case all that other weird-ass shit going on in the background was completely unnecessary. I mean, literally, I saw your tweet about it, and whenever you curse in a tweet or curse on a post on the link, it's like, oh, I gotta watch this. I gotta see what this is. And I sat there dumbfounded, jaw agape.
I watched it right to the end.
Yeah, so did I.
I was frightened in the first 10 seconds, and I watched it to the end. I couldn't believe it. And then I sat there at the end and just sat there staring at the screen.
I was fully expecting the barber to slit the guy's throat. That's how weird the ad was. I was really, because he had the weird fingernails and the eyes, and I fully expected him to grab the guy by the nose and just slit Barber Seville his ass.
Yep.
That's how weird the ad was. That would have made more sense than the ad.
That would have happened in New York if they had made the ad.
Oh my God! And I saw someone on the Loop say that, oh, this is a British ad. They're used to this kind of stuff. No, they're not. That's bullshit.
Nobody's used to that.
No one's used to this stuff. I did LSD in college. I'm not used to this stuff. Okay. Wow. That was one effed up ad. That was the most effed up ad of 2013, bar none. We have a winner.
Yeah, they win.
I just do not understand what the point was and how anybody at Nokia could have watched that and said, yes, we're going to put that on television as an advertisement that we won't be able to see.
Get my tablet. Snip, 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 snip. What?
And even showing the tablet, they did it badly. First of all, the tablet looked weird because it looks like it's twice as wide as it is tall.
Well, and did you notice that when he took it and turned it, there was a big lag, like the turn? Thinking, wow. It
took a good at least half second for that picture first it shrunk down. First it shrunk down, and then it spun, and then it didn't even fill the screen.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful. I do not understand it. And then the whole kicker of the thing is somehow someone at Nokia thinks a mullet is a good thing. It's not! There's nothing good about a mullet. The business in the front, party in the back is mocking you, morons.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, see, I feel bad.
It's a little bit, yeah.
I want to write Nokia and say, look, I'll offer you some free consulting or something, but please, don't do that again.
Can we help you out in some sort of way? It's not as bad, but there's another story earlier this week. Google Glass. Now, if I gave you Merry Christmas, gave you a set of Google Glass, would you wear them?
I'd punch you in the face.
And so the announcement that there's a Google Glass update that in order to take pictures, you wink to take a picture. I'm like, really? Are you not a creepy dork enough?
Wow.
This is how you're going to take a picture? You're going to wink to take a picture?
Wow, really?
There are going to be dorks all over San Francisco getting their faces punched in because they're winking at guys' girlfriends. Wow. That's the new way of taking a picture in Google Glass. You wink. Take a picture. That's just... Who thought this was a good idea?
Eric Smith thought that was a good idea.
If Google can take voice commands, what's wrong with Google? Take picture. It's not rocket science, guys.
Wow.
And then finally, company. It really is. Oh, it's just going to get scarier. It's just there's no other way around it. It's raison d'etre to get as it gets scarier. Finally, let's talk about this article. How much would you pay for a quiet flight? Now, we've seen that the FAA and FCC here in America and other places have now allowed you to use your electronic devices from gate to gate. Oh, you whiny assholes. But now the FAA is talking about allowing the carriers to change their policy on cell phones on a plane. Luckily, the folks at Delta, the CEO of Delta has said, even if we're allowed to, we will not allow that sort of thing.
Good.
And we're seeing a lot of conversation from a lot of people about in the Boston, New York, Washington corridor, there's a train called the Acela train. And the Acela commuter train has got quiet cars. And you pay, I think you pay a little extra, 10, 20 bucks extra for the quiet car. And you're not allowed to use your cell phone or headphones in the Acela train cars. So the idea is they're going to do the same thing for planes. Back when you and I were kids, they had smoking sections in planes. So there would be a quiet section on a plane, and you'd have to charge, not have to, you'd have to pay more. Because if an airline can find some way to get more money out of your frickin' wallet, they're going to do it.
Well, how are they going to quiet down the guy, right above that section? Yep. Or is it a whole flight that's quiet?
Nope, it'll either be the whole flight if they have enough people, or it'll be rows A through F.
How are you going to keep the guy in G from talking so loud that you can't hear? I'll just pay the regular price and deal with the guy beside me that's on the phone.
And how will you deal with him?
Oh, he won't have a phone.
Exactly. That's right. He'll have the new colon phone, brought to you by Motorola. It smells like shit because it is.
That's not going to fly.
No, it's not. I'm not paying anything extra, but I'm also not letting anywhere within earshot of me talk on the phone for more than 15 minutes. I will time you. Well, I don't care how important. There's an article that says Malika Bejium is a consultant who flies about 8 times a year. For people like me, we need to be in touch with other people all the time. No, you really don't.
No.
Okay? There is no flight in the world. Now, if you're on the space shuttle or the ISS, yes, you can use your cell phone. But there's no flight in the world that's so long that you can't be off the phone for that period of time.
You've already been doing it, flying without being on the phone.
Nope.
You can continue to do it.
That's right. Exactly.
So and there are people who, when they talk on the phone, their voice goes 2 to 3 times as loud. Can
you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just that's not gonna work.
As Mosquito says, our culture has become too indulgent of poorly raised adult children to allow this to continue. And I'll be the first person to say, I have a criminal record. I have no problem making it longer. If, for some reason, I need to take action to make you stop talking 3 hours into my frickin' flight, I'm going to do that. Because handcuffs aren't uncomfortable. Okay? I'm just telling you right now.
Hey, buddy, I don't mind going back to prison. How about you?
Exactly. Care to join me? Because I'll tell you right now, I'll be on top.
Oh, thank God that was the last topic.
Exactly. There's your mental image for you, pal. I'll be the one on top. No, there's just absolutely no need for it. Hopefully the carriers will say this will be too expensive. So I think that's the out the carriers have, is to say, no, this extra shielding or this extra cell phone towers or the extra whatever will cost too much.
Yeah.
But all it's going to take is one carrier, an American or a Southwest or one of those guys, to say, okay, we've got this flight and you can use your cell phone, where the others will have to follow suit.
Yeah.
Unless statistics are true and 75% of passengers say they don't want this. I don't have a problem with you having a 5-minute conversation saying, hey, yeah, I'm on the plane now. The plane's on time. We're expected to land in San Francisco in a few hours. I'll call you. I'm on the ground. Not a problem. Not a problem with doing that. Or even in mid-flight, hey, the pilot just said we're delayed. We're going to be an extra 20 minutes before we get there, so don't come to the airport right away. Hang up. Not a problem. But if and I don't care what the conversation, I don't care how important the conversation is. You could be Tim Cook talking about the next version of the iPad 7. I don't care. Hang up the phone.
Yeah, I get
don't
that.
Don't want to hear it. You have the iPad 7? Good for you. And Merry Christmas. Anyway, We'll let you go now. Thanks very much for being here. As always, folks, we've been talking to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. His podcast, Amplified, is up on the iTunes Store. Jim, it's been over a year, so I want to say thank you again for being here almost every Wednesday evening, and I hope you and Monique and the kids have a very Merry Christmas and a happy, happy New Year. We'll see you in the New Year, buddy.
You too, Shawn.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. Jim Dalrymple from The Loop. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. As always, send us email to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. We're going to run the interview with Ken Siegel. Ken is the guy who named the iMac. He's the guy who's responsible for the name iMac. He is the one who came up with the name and pitched it to Steve Jobs, and is a really interesting guy. His website, kensiegel.com, 2 L's, SEGALL.com. I talked to him about the misunderstood ad. Let's see if I can't get this going. So this is going to run for about 20 minutes. You'll still see me on the video, but you'll be hearing Ken. Here we go. Hey, folks, this is Shawn King from Your Mac Life. I'm on the phone now with
Or maybe
Ken
not.
Siegel.
Why is this playing?
I've interviewed him several times before. You probably already know him. He is an advertising executive, which doesn't do him justice, who worked closely with Steve Jobs for over 12 years with Next and Apple. He is the guy, and it's his fault that the thing is called an iMac. Ken, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing just fine down here in Miami. Thank you.
Don't brag. Don't. It doesn't become you. Don't brag. Well,
I'm sitting here looking at a lot of beautiful people on the beach, and I'm not one of them, but go ahead.
On Monday, Apple released a new ad, Misunderstood. We'll talk about the ad a little bit later on, but first of all, walk me in general terms. I know you can't and maybe don't want to talk about how things worked at Apple, but in general terms, how do ads like this get made? This is a seasonal ad. This is not a product ad. This is who we are kind of ad. Does the ad agency pitch the executives of the company? Do the executives of the company come to the ad agency, go, hey, give us an idea, give us a little sense of behind the scenes of how these kinds of ads get made?
Yeah, I wish I could really give you some good hard facts there, but I can't. I can only tell you what it was like in our day, back with Steve Jobs. Really, the ideas can come from both sides. I mean, either the agency or Steve could have said, you know what, I'd like to do something special this season. Let's think about that. And might go back and forth a few times. But, since Steve passed away, it's been, a little spotty with the advertising. And I think I could see it coming from either side, saying, we should really do something heartfelt and different this holiday season.
It is different. It's not a product ad. There's no specs. There's not how much RAM it has or how big the hard drive is or anything else like that. Are those ads harder to make or easier to make than an ad that just hits the feature set?
Well, I think they're much harder.
Yeah.
It is interesting that there's an iPhone in there and there's a mysterious connection to the television. However that came about, it doesn't really say anything. Just hold up the iPhone and suddenly it's on the TV. Casual viewers certainly wouldn't know anything about Apple TV or anything like that. There's no iPads in it, right? And that's like as at least as big a holiday item as iPhone. So it's really purely an emotional thing. And this particular ad is really good, I think, in that it takes such a unique approach to it. It takes negative, the idea that kids today, they're all consumed with their technology and they're more distant than ever kind of thing. And you basically sort of, replay that to people and then twist it and make it that, no, technology can bring us closer together. And that's what Apple's all about, and we wish you a happy holiday.
Would this ad have been
powerful?
Would this ad have been not created, obviously, because there's snow, created or thought up this past summer, or are ad campaigns like this done a year in advance?
Another good question. I mean, it really can work either way, obviously. A month ago, somebody could have said, the time is right to do something special and we'd love to do this. Or, Super Bowl spot could be, when back in the old days, we started on that one. So it really depends on how farsighted they were in this case. And the market changes so quickly, attitudes about Apple pro and con. I mean, who knows, what the spirit was at various meetings along the way. But it really, it'd be interesting to know whether it was pushed by the agency, pushed by the client, by the people at Apple, that is, Phil Schiller and gang, or, at what time. Mm-hmm. They're all unknowns. It can work any number of ways.
In your time at Apple, was Apple reactive to other people's advertisement or reactive to comments and or criticisms they saw online? There was a huge criticism over the so-called Genius ads last year around this time. Do you think Apple reads that, listens to that kind of stuff, or are they in their own little box and their own little Faraday cage and nothing from the outside world gets in?
Well, again, I can only really comment on what it was like when Steve was personally in charge of these things. And Steve had a sense of what was popular and what wasn't. In fact, we did a commercial once that didn't get the kind of reaction we hoped it would. And Steve started a meeting with us one day and said, that one ad, he goes, I usually get a lot of cards and letters, not cards, emails, phone calls from people he knows. And he said, my phone ain't ringing. I think we made a mistake with this one, and we move on. It's not the end of the world. And it wasn't like a Genius campaign kind of thing. It was just one ad that didn't seem to be as good. Mm-hmm. But I think in the case of the Genius campaign, there was such an outpouring from people. Just people didn't like it. I think they did listen to that. In fact, the fact that the evidence was destroyed afterwards, it was taken off of Apple's site, it was taken off the YouTube, Apple channel, it was taken off of anyone who had posted privately. Yep. There literally was not a trace of that campaign just a couple weeks later.
That's right.
So surely someone was reacting to something there and just saying, let's just move on and forget we ever did that. But I don't think as a rule Apple does that. I mean, there are always critics, as we see with this new spot. Apple, they appeal to a certain kind of person, and they're happy to do that. Yeah. They're not out to appeal to everyone, and if you're not an Apple kind of person, then go buy something else.
I think it's the key that a lot of folks miss is that if you're not, as you said, an Apple person, someone who's already predisposed to whether you have an iPhone or a Mac or not, but predisposed to liking the company, if you have serious, especially ridiculous criticism, everyone's going to ignore you. Certainly everyone at Apple does. Apple will listen to those folks who are fans of the company, who are at least objective about the company. But when you get some of the comments we've seen with regard to this ad and a lot of other Apple ads, I think those fall by those the ones that Apple can safely ignore, because those people are going to be critical of Apple regardless of whatever they do.
Yeah, and I think that's true, and I think Apple is certainly where a lot of the critics are not, that we've had an ad like this one doesn't exist for those people. Yeah. There are hundreds of millions of people who are out there. It's holiday season, and Apple does an ad that's unique. It's not a bunch of carolers standing there singing happy songs. It's an interesting statement about the way families work today with technology, and the fact that it sort of addresses this negative thing and then turns it into a positive. It makes you think a little bit. It's an unusual thing. So obviously there are going to be people who say, analysts, critics, advertising critics, and technology critics who have all their problems with it. But I think from Apple's point of view, it's like we're talking to exactly the people we want to talk to. This is a mainstream ad just designed to tell an interesting story that people have never seen before.
I find it fascinating, the commentary about the ad in general, and because I'm focused on the Macintosh, I don't know, but maybe you as an ad guy in general do know. I don't see these kinds of zaprudering of advertisements from Coca-Cola or Toyota or anyone else for that matter. Why is it Apple that gets this sort of frame-by-frame deconstruction of the ad and their motives and the people, and there's no people of color in the ad, and this and that and the next thing. It's just remarkable to me to watch people tear this thing apart instead of accepting for what it is, which is an advertisement.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. Yeah, it's the same thing that Apple gets when its products are analyzed, its stock performance. I mean, it's everything. It's one of the world's most scrutinized companies. Mm-hmm. So you're always going to have positive and negative. But I think it's really funny when you talk about like lack of people of color and everything. When I look at one of my favorite topics these days is JCPenney.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Their holiday advertising, you've got like a bunch of carolers standing in a room caroling. So you've got one of every possible race there and
right.
age group and everything else. And it's like, and they're all singing happy songs about the holidays, or happy songs about the holidays plus 40% off. That's kind of typical stuff. And nobody's out there complaining about that.
Yeah, that's right.
They're token racial, makeup of the ad, and just innocuous, and it's all about money and blah blah blah. I mean, that stuff we see every day, and no one complains about it. It's Apple trying to break the mold, and suddenly it's like, how dare they?
I saw people complaining with the fact that the end of the ad is at Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. Like, oh, come on!
I had an opposite thought to that when I first saw it, because the soundtrack has "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas."
Yep, that's
and
right.
It repeats a couple of times. I was actually thinking, wow, that's pretty bold, because most companies have homogenized that down to Happy Holidays. And then at the end, it said Happy Holidays, and I thought, oh, well, okay, so that's a little more inclusive. But the fact that they actually used the Christmas word in the soundtrack, of course, that's the song, but there aren't a lot of companies doing that these days. And, like, I am, the antithesis of a religious person. I couldn't care less whether the word Christmas is used or not. But as someone interested in marketing, I'm just curious to see how people do these things. And most advertisers do not use the Christmas word. It's like, Apple didn't really care. That's the song. It's in there. It's a great holiday message, no matter what religion you are. And then we end it with Happy Holidays. To me, it's like got the best of all worlds.
Yeah, awful article, but this one funny line in the Gizmodo article. Seriously, enough with this Apple Holiday ad. The ad where they show where I'm going to assume his mom turning, and she's a little teary-eyed because her son is, as Gizmodo called it, the sullen male youth. As mom turns and looks with tears in her eyes, she says that it's a palpable ease of tension, a living room-sized Mylar balloon that pops with a gust of calm. The boy is not a monster. He's just been creepy. It's funny how we read so much into this, and I think you bring your own biases to the ad and how you perceive the kid. To me, it was just a quiet kid. I didn't think of the kid as being sullen male youth or autistic or anything else. It was just a quiet kid playing with his iPhone. Big frickin' deal.
Yeah, I thought he was detached. I thought he was very typical of kids I see out there. And, as a parent, many people probably think, like, I'm a little concerned. I wish he'd be a little bit more sociable. He's sort of withdrawing into his shell with this technology, and everything's Facebook and staying up late at night on his computer, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was the casting was good. It was very believable, because it was all, body motion and facial expressions, and just very believable.
But see, you said the same thing that other people have said, that the kid was detached. But if you watch the ad, he wasn't. He was on the toboggan with his little brother and sister. He was walking hand in hand with his little sister. He was in the room with 4 probably little sisters or cousins sleeping on the floor next to him. This kid, he at one point was helping decorate the Christmas tree. This kid wasn't detached. He was being involved in his family the way he wanted to be involved with his family. And the other part about this is that maybe this was the kid's plan all along. This is not just a sullen kid. His plan, when he got out of the car, was to shoot this video, obviously, because he had the video ready for everybody. So I don't see the kid as being this quote-unquote sullen male youth that so many other people complain about.
Right. So now who's overanalyzing?
Oh, yeah, exactly. See, look what you got me doing. And that's what I said on someone's blog post. I said, it's just an advertisement. Why can't we just let it go? Let it be an advertisement. It's a cute, sweet little ad that someone did, and maybe this will inspire other people, to other teenagers or parents, to take a video of their holiday celebrations.
I think that's actually a great point. I hadn't even thought of that one myself. A lot of people do. They copy things they see, and they set examples, and there are a lot of critiques written about corporate advertising, setting an example, and what kind of message are we sending to our children, that kind of thing. I'm curious why nobody's writing about this ad that way. It's sending a fantastic message to parents, kids, families. It's all about Technology isn't supposed to, sequester us.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to bring us together. And I think that was certainly Steve Jobs' vision. It was all about sharing and connecting people. It wasn't about people going off and doing their own thing and never talking to each other again.
One of the few times I've ever disagreed with Benedict Evans, ben-evans.com, Apple's selling points. He says, this is not a branding spot. It's a pure feature-led spot. Now, he says that, yeah, it's interesting that he would say it that way. He says, the interesting thing about this spot is how closely it links to Apple's selling points without dwelling on them. Low light works. Slow motion works. Sending it to the TV works. I don't think anybody except the most uber geek would get that out of this advertisement. I don't think that's what Apple's doing at all with this. It does. They are showing low light. They are showing slow motion. They are showing the Apple TV. But that's not nowhere near the point of the ad. I got to disagree with Benedict when he says this is a pure feature-led spot. Do you?
Yeah, I think that's total bull. I mean, that's someone who doesn't understand how advertising works.
That's right.
Again, we're talking to tens of millions of people who do nothing more than get an impression from it.
Yeah.
It's a sweet spot brought to you by Apple, talking about how technology can bring us together, and that's a nice holiday message. The bottom line, the reason Apple does something like this is to create those good feelings.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about features. You can get features from anyone, but you want to do business with a company that you feel good about. And you could be really cynical and say this is all about, the bottom line is selling more iPhones. It probably is, actually.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But it's just another piece of the puzzle. It's another way to get people to feel like Apple understands what's important in human beings' lives.
Now, I don't think I've seen anyone else write about this story from this angle, but I love the title of it as being misunderstood. Does this represent Apple, too? That Apple is misunderstood? That, talking about Zaprudering this thing, maybe the kid represents Apple. The kid is Apple. He's away from the rest of the technology group. He's not part of technology, but when he does get involved in technology, it's in a really cool way, a way that surprises you, a way that makes you cry. I think that at least the title of the ad also represents Apple.
That's a pretty interesting observation.
Well, I do my best.
By yourself, huh?
Screw you, Siegel.
No, I think that's actually pretty spot on. You could certainly make that parallel. I don't think Apple is as misunderstood as some of the critics would have you believe, because they're doing incredibly well. I think most people understand Apple well. It's the people, the naysayers and critics who are try to point out all these horrible things that are the real ones who misunderstand. But you can certainly make that parallel that the kid is the one who really, really gets what technology is all about, more so than anyone.
Sure. Overall, this is a home run of an ad, isn't it? This is certainly the most talked about ad for Christmas. I've seen ads for every other company, and no one's mentioning them in any way, shape, or form. This is a wonderful, sweet ad. I got to give it a 9 out of 10, with 1984 being a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's definitely what you said is true. It's the one people talk about, and that alone is a great Apple story. It's when Apple enters the category, it's the one people talk about. So yeah, I think that it's an interesting thing because it is so much in the execution. As I keep going back to, the production values are great. They must have spent a ton of time, and that's a lot of different shots. A lot of people, and again, the casting is critical. If that kid doesn't really pull it off, then the whole spot's ruined. So you got to find a great kid. The family, they're replaceable. And I also wanted to make a comment. You mentioned about the people crying. I thought that was an interesting one too, because one could argue. In fact, I could see during the production, I could see people arguing whether you really want to show people crying. Do we want to tell people that this is a tearjerker, or should we let them figure that out for themselves? And I think it's a very natural thing. Obviously, the mom would be incredibly proud. That shot of her at the end is great. The crying grandma, whatever. It kind of was necessary for the story. But it's an interesting thing. Do you really need to show that? You need to show tearjerkerness to have a tearjerker commercial.
It's kind of funny that
really
we seem to not mind being manipulated if we're manipulated in ways we like. You know, that was very, you're right. That was very manipulative to show Mom, because that's when I teared up a little bit too. Was seeing Mom and Grandma cry, and you're right. If those two shots hadn't been there, if it had just been Mom smiling and just been Grandma smiling, maybe it wouldn't have been as much of a tearjerker. But Apple pushed that button in your own psyche and said, "Here's where you start to cry. Here's where you start to feel."
Right.
But it's the quote unquote good cry, which women know and men don't understand. So.
Right, and also keep in mind, Apple's giving us an important lesson here: is that men don't cry.
That's right.
Women cry, right?
Exactly. The sexist bastards. I'm sure Gizmodo will write that story tomorrow. I've been remiss. I've been talking to. It's been Ken Siegel. His website is kensiegel.com. 2 L's, Segall. He's the author of Insanely Simple: The Obsession That Drives Apple Success. Still available at Amazon.com and off of Ken's website. Ken, I want to thank you very much for joining me here. As always, appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. It's always fun, so call anytime.
And you and yours have a wonderful happy holidays, and screw it, I'm going to say it, Merry Christmas.
Okay. I don't resent that at all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Hey, folks, that was Ken Siegel from kensiegel.com, and the book is a great book. If you have a business student or a design student or a marketing student who wants to learn more about the inside of how good marketing works, it's not a bad book to put on their Christmas list. What do you guys think? I mean, we were joking there about Happy Holidays versus Merry Christmas. Do you guys censor yourself? Should we censor ourselves for that? I know I don't. I say whatever comes to mind. If I'm thinking Happy Holidays, I'll say Happy Holidays. If I'm thinking Merry Christmas, I'll say Merry Christmas. To me, it doesn't matter. I think only the most churlish would get upset over the fact that I've wished them the benefits of a holiday or religion they don't participate in. And if you want to be that way, you go right ahead. I'm still passing on the good thoughts and the good feelings of the season to you, whether I say it Happy Holidays, whether I say it Merry Christmas, or whatever it might be. But some people actually do get offended. Oh, I'm Jewish. Okay, fine. That's good for you. Happy Hanukkah, whatever. But do you worry about it? I think to a small degree I do, in the sense that here in Vancouver, especially in the area of Vancouver that we live in Surrey, there's a large Sikh population in Vancouver in general, and certainly in Surrey. And for those folks who may not be familiar, Sikhs are the ones where the men don't cut their hair and they'll wear a turban. And I generally will not say Merry Christmas to them. I'll say Happy Holidays. I'll say Happy Holidays to anybody. I don't care about that. But I won't say Merry Christmas to someone in a turban, because I know they're Sikh, therefore they don't celebrate it. So that's not a problem. But otherwise, I don't self-censor at all with that, because if you get offended by that, up yours. Merry freaking Christmas. So remember, I said earlier in the show, there won't be a show next week. There won't be a show the week after, because next week is Christmas. And I hope that all of you guys have a fantastic, merry, happy, wonderful, fun Christmas, however you choose to spend it. The week after that is New Year's. And so we don't do shows on the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's. And again, this year, coincidentally, New Year's and Christmas are on a Wednesday. So our next official show won't be until January the 8th. So it's 3 Wednesdays from tonight. But next week, I'm going to do a test show, probably for most of the afternoon. I'm here alone. The little Sig is going to be at school. Alessandra is going to be at work. So I'm going to run through that Wirecast software. For those folks who have been following me for a while, you know I was using that software before Mavericks came out to do some more interesting things with the video, and I'm needing to test it. I can't test it internally because it's tough to both send out video and receive video at the same time. So what I need is folks to come with me next week. So if you're not doing anything on Tuesday afternoon, Either jump in the IRC chat room if you so choose, or follow me on Twitter. And when you see me post that I'm doing the YML test, watch the video and critique it for me and help me out in stress testing Wirecast. So I'd really like to use Wirecast in the new year. Right now, it's not stable enough, and I know the folks at Wirecast are going to watch it too. I got at least one support tech guy there who's going to help me out with this. But so we need to test this out and stress test it to see where the issues are and how to fix them. So, I want to say we got an email from our winner of the Dodo case up there in Juneau, Alaska. I want to send a shout out to him. Also interesting. With Glenn Ramsey, we were commenting that we were surprised that it wasn't butt-numbingly cold up there, but Glenn says, listen to the show this morning, he sounded surprised at the temperature up here. People here, Alaska, assume the entire state is an icebox. Yeah, we generally do. In fact, if you look, we're practically neighbors. Juneau is just 800 miles north of you, basically in the northwest edge of British Columbia. The only thing stopping me from being Canadian is 60 miles of ice called the Juneau Ice Field. The temps that you saw, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or 0 Celsius, is deceiving because that is right at sea level. In fact, due to all the cold air your country sends down from the Yukon and northern BC, it was snowing like a mofo at my house. About 2 feet worth in the last 36 hours. Thus, all the shoveling that goes with it. Otherwise, we get a lot of the same weather patterns that you do in Vancouver. I didn't know that, Glenn. I had no idea. I just assumed that, you were typical of the same kind of weather patterns that most of Canada has. Certainly anything north of Calgary gets. It's been freezingly, mind-numbingly cold in Edmonton, a lot further south than Juneau, Alaska. So I didn't know. I didn't realize that it was almost balmy and temperate in Juneau. It's been lovely here in Vancouver. It's rain and dingy, but at least it's not snowing. So hopefully you guys will have a wonderful holiday, no matter what kind of conditions you have. Let me know what you guys get for Christmas next week. Send me email on air at yourmaclifeshow.com. As always, I love getting emails from you guys. I'll read some of these emails on our test show on next Wednesday. So I want to say thanks to all you guys, everyone who's been involved in the show over the past year. Our IRC babe Sly, thanks very much to her for being involved in the show, as always. Also, thanks very much to Jim Dalrymple, who's been joining us almost each and every Wednesday since we've been doing this for the last few years. So, Jim, thank you very much for doing that. And I hope you guys have a good few weeks off, and we look forward to seeing you next year, 2014. So, again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and we'll see you all in a year's time. Until then, I've been Shawn King, and you're listening to Your Mac Life. This is Shawn King from... That's not the right button. Damn it! How did that happen? All right, try this again. 3, 2, I'll fix it in post. No, actually, I won't. I'm Shawn King, and you're listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!